Sister stole. My son's $1,900 slapped him when caught and manipulated our parents into siding with her. Now she's lost her job and I'm the villain. My name's Caleb, 46 years old, male. I never thought I'd be one of those people spilling family drama online, but here we are. It all started on a completely ordinary Wednesday evening. Quiet. Still, the kind of night where everything feels steady. Until it suddenly doesn't. My son, Rowan, was sitting at the kitchen table, counting the envelope he'd been filling for nearly a year. Every paycheck from his after-school job, every birthday card, every crumpled bill he'd earned washing cars or mowing lawns, all of it went into that envelope. He'd saved $9,200 for his first car. He dumped the money out on the table, stacked it in neat piles, counted twice, then a third time. I was halfway through loading the dishwasher when I heard his voice crack. Dad, it's gone. At first, I thought he meant some of it. Maybe he miscounted or misplaced a few bills. But when I looked at his face, pale, tight, on the edge of tears, I knew it wasn't that. All of it? I asked. He just nodded. My wife, Marin, came running in from the living room. We tore through the drawers, checked under the couch cushions, went through his backpack, even the laundry basket. Nothing. The envelope, thick, worn, duct taped shut like a tiny treasure chest, was just gone. The only person who'd been in the house that day was my sister Tessa, 39. She stopped by that afternoon, said she needed to use the Wi-Fi because hers was out. I'd been at work, but Marin had let her in, made her coffee, and left her alone for about an hour, while she ran to pick up groceries. Tessa has history. Always been the free spirit, the one my parents swore just needed time to figure herself out. She's drifted from job to job, lived in 3 states in 5 years, borrowed money from nearly everyone she knows, and paid back exactly no one. But this was stealing from her own nephew. Rowan looked up at me with this hollow, frightened expression that cut straight through me. Dad, do you think she... He couldn't even say it out loud. I didn't want to believe it either, but Marin's face told the truth, before either of us did. That quiet, sick realization, the kind that hits like gravity when denial finally gives up. I called Tessa that night. Her voice was syrupy sweet. Oh my God, Caleb, are you serious? You think I took your kid's money? She actually laughed. You know me better than that. Yeah, that was exactly the problem. I did know her. I knew how she twisted things, how she cried her way out of corners, how our parents would defend her no matter what she did. But this wasn't about old wounds or sibling grudges. This was my son's dream, his hard work, and I wasn't letting it get swept under another one of Tessa's excuses. That night, I stood in Rowan's doorway. He was lying there wide awake, hands tucked under his pillow, like he was protecting something that wasn't there anymore. Marin came up behind me and whispered, "You have to talk to her." "I will," I said, and I meant it. Because next time Tessa walked into this house, she wasn't going to be my sister. She was going to be the thief who robbed my son. The next morning, I didn't even have to ask Marin if she'd slept. Her eyes said everything. Red, puffy, drained. Rowan looked worse. He just sat at the table pushing cereal around with his spoon, staring through it. He didn't even want to go to school. That was the part that broke me. He wasn't angry. He was ashamed. Like losing the money was his fault. Around 10 a.m., I called Tessa again. This time, she didn't pick up. I tried twice more before finally sending a text. "We need to talk. Now." 15 minutes later, she called, her voice already defensive. "Caleb, I told you last night I didn't take anything. Are you seriously still on this?" I took a breath. "Tess, you were the only one in the house. The envelope's gone. I'm not looking to fight. I just need you to tell me straight. Did you take it?" Silence. Then that sharp exhale, the one she always does before she starts rewriting reality. "Oh, come on. You think I'm that desperate? What would I even do with $9 grand? Buy a yacht?" "Your rent's overdue, Tessa," I said quietly. "Mom told Marin you've been behind for 2 months. That hit her like a slap. I could practically hear her stiffen through the phone. "Wow, real nice, Caleb. Digging through my personal life? Maybe if you actually helped your family, instead of judging them, I wouldn't be struggling." There it was. The guilt grenade, classic Tessa. I'd spent half my life watching her set her own fires, and then demand credit for surviving the smoke. "I'm not doing this," I said. "If you didn't take it, fine, but if you did, bring it back today, no questions asked." Click, she hung up. By evening, my parents were involved. Of course they were. My mom, Linda, called while I was changing a tire in the driveway. "Caleb, honey, your sister's upset. She says you accused her of stealing from her own nephew. Do you realize how hurtful that is?" I laughed. Bitter, tired. "Not as hurtful as stealing $9,000 from a 17-year-old kid. Don't be dramatic," she said in that dismissive tone she's perfected over decades. "Tessa's been through a lot. She's trying her best. She's almost 40, Mom." "She's your sister," she snapped back. "You two need to talk this out like family, not enemies. Then tell her to bring the money back, and I'll gladly talk." Click, just like Tessa. That night, Marin found me sitting in the garage, just staring at Rowan's empty envelope on the workbench. I'd put it there like evidence in a case I already knew the outcome of. She sat beside me, rested her head on my shoulder. "You know they're not going to admit it." "Yeah," I said. But she's not getting away with it either. When I finally confronted Tessa in person 2 days later, it wasn't planned. She just showed up, marched up my driveway like she owned the place, wearing those oversized sunglasses and fake confidence. Marin froze when she saw her. Rowan went upstairs immediately. Tessa crossed her arms, chin tilted up. So? You going to search my purse next, detective? I kept my voice low. We found something, Tess. Her eyes flickered just for a second, that tiny flash of panic she couldn't hide fast enough. Marin handed me her phone and showed Tessa the screen, the security app from our front door camera, a time-stamped clip from Monday afternoon. There she was, Tessa, walking into the house, leaving 48 minutes later with her tote bag, much fuller than when she arrived. You could see the outline of a rectangular bulge, the exact shape of that envelope. She stared at the screen for a long moment, then smirked. You really went full big brother on me, huh? Creepy, Caleb. Real creepy. So it's true? I asked quietly. That's when she snapped. Oh, grow up. It's money, Caleb. You and Marin have plenty. Rowan's a kid. He doesn't need $9,000 sitting in a drawer, like some little prince. I borrowed it. I was going to pay it back. Borrowed? Marin's voice cracked. You stole from your nephew? Don't you talk to me like that, Tessa shouted, pointing a shaking finger. You think you're better than me because you married some stable guy and live in a boring house with matching curtains? Then she shoved the phone off the counter. It shattered against the tile. Rowan heard the crash and came running. Tessa turned, wild-eyed, shouting, What are you looking at? That was it for me. I stepped between them and said, Get out. Her face twisted, somewhere between fury and heartbreak. You're really doing this? Over money? No, I said. Over respect. She screamed, shoved me hard in the chest, then stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. I didn't chase her. I just looked at the broken phone on the floor and the pale face of my son behind me and realized this wasn't about the money anymore. This was about everything that had been broken long before that envelope disappeared. The next morning, I woke up to 23 missed calls, half from Mom, the rest from unknown numbers I later realized were relatives. Tessa had clearly started her damage control campaign. Marin was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through Facebook. She looked up at me with this mixture of disbelief and disgust. She's already posted about it. Sure enough, there it was, a long, self-pitying status from Tessa. Some people will believe anything. Imagine being accused of stealing from your own family when all you did was try to borrow a little help. Sad how money ruins everything. The comments were full of sympathy, from her friends, cousins, even a few aunts. You don't deserve this, Tess. Family can be so cruel. Stay strong, girl. I felt my jaw tighten until it hurt. Marin said quietly, She's setting the narrative before the truth gets out. At noon, my phone rang again. Mom, against my better judgment, I answered. Caleb, she began in that voice she uses when she's pretending to be calm, but is really seething. I just got off the phone with your sister. What is wrong with you? I sat down, slowly, keeping my tone even. What's wrong with me? Mom, she stole $9,000 from Rowan. We have video footage. That video proves nothing, she snapped. You're blowing this way out of proportion. She said she borrowed it. She would have paid it back if you'd just given her a chance. Mom, she screamed at Marin, shoved me, broke her phone, and terrified Rowan. She told me you attacked her first. I laughed bitterly. Of course she did. Then came the kicker. Your father and I think you need to apologize, she said. I couldn't even respond at first. I just sat there, staring at the wall, feeling my pulse hammer in my temples. You want me to apologize to the person who stole from my son? She's family, Caleb. Family sticks together. Money can be replaced. Blood can't. I hung up. I didn't yell, didn't explain, didn't defend myself. I just hung up. When I told Marin, she just nodded slowly. They're never going to take your side. Yeah, I said, and I think I finally stopped expecting them to. That night, I found Rowan sitting in the living room, scrolling through his phone, reading comments under Tessa's post. He looked crushed. People think you're lying, he said quietly. Uncle Nate commented that I probably spent it and blamed her. Oh, I sat down beside him. Don't read that garbage. The truth always comes out. It just takes time. But deep down, I wasn't sure I believed it. Not in our family. 2 days later, Dad showed up at the house unannounced. He never comes alone. That was my first red flag. He walked in without knocking, stiff and uncomfortable, holding a manila envelope. Your mother thought I should bring this, he said, not meeting my eyes. Inside was a check for $9,200. The memo line read, for Rowan's savings. Peace offering. I looked at him, stunned. You're paying me off? He rubbed the back of his neck. It's not like that. Tessa doesn't have the money right now, and your mother wants this whole thing behind us. She feels terrible about the argument. So instead of holding her accountable, you're cleaning it up for her. Caleb, please, he sighed. Your mom's been sick about this. Can we just let it go? Take the money, drop the police talk, and move forward. Something in me cracked right then. Years of being the responsible one, the one who cleaned up Tessa's messes, the one who kept quiet, while our parents made excuses. It all boiled up and hardened into something colder. No, I said. This time, she's going to face what she did. Dad's eyes went wide. You wouldn't actually. I would. I already did. He blinked. You called the police? I nodded. Reported the theft yesterday morning. Detective's name is Merriman. They've already pulled the door cam footage. Dad's voice dropped, almost pleading. Caleb, don't do this to your sister. She did this to herself, I said. He shook his head in disbelief, muttering something about how I'd ruined the family. Then he walked out, slamming the door behind him, the same way Tessa had. When the cops called that evening to confirm they were following up with her, I felt this strange mix of guilt and relief. Marin sat beside me, her hand in mine. You okay? She asked softly. Not really, I said. But maybe for once we'll finally stop pretending this family is something it's not. Upstairs, Rowan was asleep, the broken envelope taped back together on his nightstand, a symbol of something I couldn't fix but wouldn't let go of. 3 days after Dad stormed out, an unmarked sedan pulled up in front of Tessa's apartment complex. I didn't find out until later that Detective Merriman had paid her a visit. But I got the blow back fast. That night, my phone blew up again. It was Mom. You called the police on your own sister? She screamed before I could say a word. What the hell is wrong with you, Caleb? What's wrong with me? She stole from a 17-year-old. She screamed at Marin and shoved me. You wanted me to pretend that didn't happen? She didn't steal. She borrowed. And now she could lose her job over this. Do you even understand what you've done? She should have thought about that before she took the money. Mom's voice cracked, sharp and trembling. You've destroyed this family. Your father can't sleep. Tess is in tears. I hope you're happy. And then she said the thing that made my hands go cold. She says Rowan lied. I froze. What? Tessa told Detective Merriman that Rowan must have misplaced the money, that you and Marin are blaming her because you don't like her. She even said Rowan's been having emotional issues. That was it. That was the moment I realized there was no bottom with her. No line she wouldn't cross to save herself. When I told Marin, she went silent for a long time. Then she said, so she's willing to drag your parents, you, and your kid down with her rather than take responsibility. I nodded. Exactly. And Mom's eating it up. 2 days later, we got a visit from Detective Merriman himself. He was calm, methodical, polite, a stocky guy in his 50s with kind eyes and that quiet authority that made you tell the truth before he even asked. He sat at our kitchen table with his notebook open, the same one where I used to help Rowan with math homework. We've spoken to your sister, he said. She denies taking the money, claims it was a misunderstanding. Let me guess, I said. She said she borrowed it. He smiled slightly. That word came up, yes, but here's the thing. She couldn't tell me when she was planning to return it. And she claimed the envelope only had around $1,000, not $9,000. Her story doesn't line up. He leaned forward. We also checked her bank activity. There's a cash deposit of $900 the day after she visited your home. Marin's hand found mine under the table. I could feel her shaking. So what happens now, I asked. We're moving forward with charges, he said. The amount makes it a felony theft. She'll receive a summons for arraignment in about a week. After he left, I sat there for a long time, staring at the empty mug in front of me. I should have felt vindicated. I didn't. I just felt hollow. The next day, Tessa came to our house again. I didn't even see her pull up. I just heard pounding on the door like she was trying to break it down. Marin was upstairs. Rowan was in his room. I opened the door, and there she was, red-eyed, shaking, furious. You had me arrested, she screamed. Do you know what that's going to do to my life? You did that to yourself, Tess, I said quietly. You stole from your nephew. She stepped closer. Close enough that I could smell the cigarette smoke in her hair. I told you I was going to pay it back, but you wanted to humiliate me. This isn't about humiliation. It's about accountability. Her hand twitched like she was going to hit me, and for a second I thought she actually might, but she didn't. Instead, she slammed both fists against the doorframe so hard it rattled the hinges and shouted, You're dead to me, Caleb. You and that fake perfect wife of yours. Don't ever talk to me again. Then she stomped off, got into her car, and peeled out so fast the tires squealed against the asphalt. When Marin came downstairs, I was still standing there, staring at the door. What did she say? Marin asked softly. Nothing we haven't heard before, I said. Just louder. That night, Rowan came downstairs, holding his old skateboard helmet, the one he'd worn when he was little. He looked at me and said, Can we lock the doors? Of course, I said. He nodded once, quiet, serious beyond his years, then added, She's not coming back, right? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because I had a sick feeling that she would come back. Just not in the way we were expecting. Update. Didn't think I'd be writing again, but after the last week, I kinda need to. Things blew up bigger than I ever imagined. So, yeah. My sister Tessa has officially been charged with felony theft. The detective called to confirm she's been arraigned and released pending trial. That should have been the end of it, right? But in my family, nothing ever ends clean. The day after her court appearance, my mom, Linda, posted one of those cryptic Facebook rants people write when they're trying to look noble while playing victim. It said, Some people forget that blood is thicker than money. When one of us falls, we lift them up. We don't throw them to the wolves. She didn't name names, but she didn't have to. Everyone in our extended family knew exactly what it was about. My cousin messaged me screenshots of people commenting things like, family should forgive, and you only get one sister. Marin told me to ignore it, but seeing strangers, distant relatives who hadn't called me in years, taking sides in something they didn't even understand made my stomach twist. Then came the kicker. Tessa created a GoFundMe. No, seriously. A GoFundMe titled, Help Me Rebuild After My Brother Ruined My Life. She wrote this long, dramatic story about being betrayed by family and falsely accused of theft. Within 2 days, she raised almost $2,000, mostly from family friends who believed her lies. I don't think I've ever felt anger like that in my life. Not even when I found out she took the money. This was different, deeper. It wasn't just about her anymore, it was about watching the truth drown under her performance. But here's the part I didn't expect. The detective called again. He said they'd subpoenaed her financial records, and not only had she deposited Rowan's money, she'd spent nearly all of it. Mostly on online gambling sites and cash app transfers to some guy in Arizona. The kind of stupidity that's almost insulting in its predictability. I told Marin, and she just closed her eyes and said, Your parents still won't believe it. She was right. The next night, Dad showed up again, this time without Mom. He stood on our porch for a long time before I opened the door. His face looked older than I'd ever seen it. She's falling apart, he said quietly. Your sister's drinking again. Your mom's not sleeping. I don't know how to fix this. You can't fix it, I said. Not this time. He hesitated, then said, She keeps saying she wants to talk to Rowan. To apologize. I almost laughed. She can apologize after she pays him back. She doesn't have the money. Then she doesn't get forgiveness. Dad just stood there for a minute, then nodded like he finally understood what I'd been trying to say for years. That love without accountability isn't love. It's enablement. Later that night, Rowan came downstairs with his phone in hand. Dad, he said softly, should I delete Aunt Tessa from my contacts? I looked at him, my son, who had saved every cent of that money through pure discipline and hard work, who'd learned more about betrayal in 3 weeks than most adults do in a lifetime, and said, Yeah, bud, delete her. He did, just like that, no hesitation. That was the first peaceful night we'd had in months. But here's where things took a turn. 2 mornings later, I went out to my truck and found the windshield smashed, spiderweb cracks spreading across the glass, a rock still sitting in the seat. No note, but I didn't need one. The security camera from our driveway caught a blurry figure in a hoodie around 2 a.m., creeping up the driveway, the same slouch posture, the same walk. Tessa. I sent the footage to Detective Merriman immediately. He said it would count as evidence of harassment and property damage, possibly a violation of her bail conditions. For a moment, I thought about just letting it go, pretending it hadn't happened, avoiding another round of drama. But then I remembered Rowan's face that first night, staring at that empty envelope. No more silence, no more protecting her from herself. So I made a decision, one that, for once, felt like justice instead of guilt. Tessa wanted to humiliate me publicly? Fine. She wanted to turn family into an audience? Even better. I was done hiding behind her lies. And the next move I made would ensure that everyone, including my parents, finally saw who she really was. The morning after I found my windshield smashed, I sat in the driveway, drinking cold coffee, staring at the cracks. The world felt small. My house, my wife, my son, all under siege by someone who should have been family. Marin came out, pulled on her jacket, and stood beside me. You're going to do something, aren't you? Yeah, I said. I'm done letting her control the story. For weeks, Tess had been running her mouth online, spinning her sob story version to anyone who'd listen. My parents ate it up, pretending she was the victim of my cruelty, not the architect of her own downfall. So I decided to give everyone the truth, but in Tessa's language, public, loud, and undeniable. It started small. I posted on Facebook, short, calm, and surgical. For anyone confused about what's been happening, my sister Tessa was charged with felony theft after stealing $9,200 from my son's savings. The police have confirmed a bank deposit matching the stolen amount, and she's under active investigation for property damage. I've stayed quiet out of respect for family, but silence only protects liars. I didn't tag her. I didn't call her names. I just attached the police report number and a still image from the door cam footage. The one showing her leaving our house with the bulging tote bag. Within an hour, my notifications blew up. Half the comments were stunned silence. The other half were people apologizing. Friends who'd believed her lies. Relatives who'd donated to her GoFundMe. The page disappeared within the day. Then came the messages. Dozens of them. Old friends, coworkers, even a few of Tessa's former employers. Turns out she had a pattern. Borrowing money, lying about it, moving on. People were finally connecting the dots. By evening, my mom called again, her voice smaller this time. Caleb, why would you post that? You've humiliated her. Mom, she humiliated herself. I just turned the lights on. She tried to argue, but the wind was gone from her sails. People are calling me, she whispered. They're asking how we could defend her. Maybe it's time you ask yourself the same thing, I said. That night, Marin sat beside me on the couch, scrolling through her phone. It's everywhere, she said softly. Everyone knows now. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt done. Like I'd finally exhaled after years of holding my breath, but Tessa wasn't done. The next day, she showed up again. Not at our house this time, but at my parents'. My dad called later, his voice trembling. She's losing it, Caleb. She threw a chair, screamed that you ruined her life. Said she wishes you'd die. I felt something tighten in my chest. Not fear exactly, but a deep, quiet finality. She made her choices, Dad, I said, and I made mine. That night, Detective Merriman called to tell me she'd violated her release conditions. The vandalism, the harassment, it was enough. They were taking her back into custody, pending trial. I thought I'd feel relief. Instead, I felt tired. When I told Marin, she nodded and said, "You did the right thing." Rowan overheard and came into the kitchen. "Is Aunt Tessa going to jail?" I hesitated and said, "She's going to have to face what she did." He was quiet for a moment. "Good," he said simply. "Maybe now she'll stop lying." That hit harder than anything else. Because beneath everything, the rage, the noise, the drama, that was what really hurt. How easily truth got buried when family refused to see it. That night before bed, Marin found me out in the garage again, just staring at the broken glass from the phone Tessa had smashed weeks before. She put a hand on my shoulder and said, "You know, this isn't just about her anymore." "I know," I said. "It's about stopping the cycle." Because that's what it really was. A cycle of denial, guilt, and excuses that stretched back decades. And it ended with me. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the peacekeeper or the fixer. I felt like the man who finally stopped playing along. Update number 2. It's been 3 months since my last post, and honestly, it feels like a lifetime. Everything that's happened since has changed how I see family, and maybe how I see myself too. Tessa's trial was 2 weeks ago. The official charge, felony theft over $5,000 and destruction of property. She pled not guilty at first, which almost made me laugh. Her public defender tried to spin the story as a misunderstanding between siblings, claiming she only took the money temporarily, and that the stress of family conflict led to her emotional instability. But Detective Merriman was there, calm as ever, walking the jury through everything. The bank deposit, the video footage, the smashed windshield, the threatening texts she sent me after the Facebook post. It took the jury less than an hour to find her guilty. When the verdict was read, Tessa didn't cry. She just sat there staring at me. This cold, steady look, like she was memorizing my face for the next grudge. Mom was behind her, sobbing so loudly, the judge actually had to ask her to step outside. Dad sat stone still, hands clasped tight, looking at the floor. When court ended, Marin reached for my hand. Rowan was sitting quietly beside her, old enough now to understand what was happening, but still young enough to be wounded by it. Tessa was sentenced to 6 months in county jail with probation and mandatory counseling afterward. The judge said something about a pattern of deception and denial that made it hard to show leniency. She'll also have to pay restitution, the full $9,200 to Rowan. Mom hasn't spoken to me since. She sent one message the day after sentencing. "You could have handled this privately. You didn't have to destroy your sister's life." I didn't respond. Because the truth is, I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped covering up what was already broken. Dad's been different, though. He's quiet, more present. He dropped by a few days ago with a box of my old tools he'd kept from when I moved out years ago. We stood in the garage for a while, not saying much, until he finally said, "You did the right thing, son. I just wish I'd had the guts to do it a long time ago." That hit hard. Marin and I decided not to talk about Tessa around Rowan anymore. He's been doing better, saving again, working extra shifts at the shop down the street. He told me last week he's close to buying his first car again. I think that means more to him now than it ever did before. And me? I've been trying to make peace with the idea that sometimes doing the right thing doesn't feel good, it just feels necessary. But there's one last thing. Last weekend we drove past my parents' house. Tessa's old car, that beat-up blue Honda she refused to let go of, was still in the driveway. It looked like it hadn't moved in months. Rowan pointed at it and said, "You think she'll ever say sorry?" I thought about it for a long time before answering. "Maybe," I said, "but we don't need her to anymore." That night I found Rowan sitting in the garage, wiping down the same old envelope he'd kept all this time, patched up with duct tape and folded soft from being handled too much. Inside it was only a few $100s, but it didn't matter. He looked up at me and said, "Next time someone tries to take what's mine, I'll be ready." I smiled and said, "That's my boy," because that's the thing about betrayal. It takes something from you, yeah, but if you survive it, if you face it head on, it gives you something too. Strength, clarity, a line you'll never let anyone cross again. And maybe that's the real justice. Not just seeing the liar fall, but knowing you'll never live under their shadow again. It's strange how normal life feels after the storm finally ends. It's been 8 months since Tessa's sentencing. She got out of county last week. No one told me officially. I just happened to find out because she tagged herself at a diner near Mom's house, posting some half-hearted, fresh start caption. I didn't comment, didn't text, didn't even show Marin. Because the truth is, I don't care what she does anymore. That part of my life, of our lives is over. My parents never really recovered from what happened, at least not together. Mom still refuses to visit, still calls Maureen the woman who turned my son against his sister, but Dad comes by once a week. He and Rowan have this little ritual now, fixing up an old Ford Ranger they found cheap at an auction. It's rough, rusted, and barely runs, but Rowan lights up every time the engine sputters to life. The other night, I caught them in the garage, laughing over some stripped bolt, grease on their hands and faces. For the first time in a long time, the laughter didn't feel forced. It sounded like healing. Marin's been different too, lighter somehow. After years of walking on eggshells with my family, she finally feels safe in her own home. We've been spending weekends away, small trips, just the three of us. Rowan drives now, at least on empty roads, and every time he turns the key, I think about how close we came to losing so much more than money. Last month, we cleaned out the old storage closet and found a box of old family photos, back before things went sour. There was one of Tessa and me as kids, sitting on the same front steps she'd later storm off from. We were covered in popsicle stains, smiling like idiots. Marin asked if I wanted to throw it away. I said no, I don't hate her. I'm just done carrying her weight. Sometimes at night, I still think about the way she looked in court. Defiant, brittle, almost empty. There's a part of me that still wishes things had gone differently, that she just admitted it, just said, I'm sorry. But then I remember how many chances she had, and how many times we all let her get away with it. A few weeks ago, Rowan got his car, not brand new, but clean, solid, reliable. The salesman asked who was paying, and Rowan said proudly, I am. Watching him hand over that cashier's check, knowing how hard he'd worked for it again, I swear my throat closed up. On the drive home, Marin leaned over and whispered, he's not just getting a car, he's getting closure. She was right. When we pulled into the driveway, the sun was setting, orange light bleeding through the trees, catching the dented hood of Rowan's new car. He sat there for a while before getting out, just staring at it. Then he said, You know, Dad, I think I finally understand why you didn't give up. I smiled. Yeah? Why's that? He shrugged. Because if we don't stop people like her, they never stop hurting us. And just like that, I knew he'd learned something it took me 40 years to understand. That peace doesn't come from pretending everything's okay. It comes from finally standing up when no one else will. Later that night, after Rowan went to bed, I sat out on the porch with Marin. The air smelled like cut grass and rain. She rested her head on my shoulder and said softly, You did the hard thing, Caleb. Most people wouldn't have. I looked out at the quiet street, the faint glint of Rowan's car under the porch light, and said, Yeah, but sometimes the hard thing is the only thing that saves you. And for the first time in years, I meant it. Because forgiveness is optional. Peace isn't.